Okay. Okay, it's recording. So I just put your questions on a spreadsheet. So part of the right now, as Ashleigh might have mentioned, Clarity started just a couple of months ago, and they haven't finished the whole franchising documentation. They're hoping by the end of the year. So the first dozen or so partners who've joined are basically friends and colleagues, or people he's helped over the years in this industry. So Ashleigh, have you kind of gone over Brian's background a little bit? Okay, so in summary, he started about 7-8 years ago. Before that, he ran a Liberty tax franchise. 6 of them, was a 7-figure earner, and then switched over and built out the insurance side of the business as well. He still got the tax business, and became a top 100 all-state agent, franchise owner. It was a franchise. It was like 50, 100 grand to get in. As a physical presence, as multiple offices, etc. But 4 years ago, he responded to one of my ads and hired us to do videos and stuff. So I only came across, I've been talking to him about, doing franchising of sorts over the last few years. And then finally he moved forward with it. And I only knew about that. He'd set it up only about a month ago. So this is all kind of by accident, as you know, from Ashleigh when I was trying to learn more about Richard's program. Anyway, so who are the competitors? Really, the competitors, 2 big players. Have you heard of Goosehead by any chance? So Goosehead are probably one of the largest brokerage houses in the US. They started 18 years ago by ex-Bain consultants. Are you familiar with the management consulting industry? They're one of the top 5. There's like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Bain. That's kind of my background 25 years ago in Australia. I worked, we were set up by an ex-Bain and McKinsey consultant. So I was part of KBA Consulting back in my 20s and stuff before I did the whole .com thing and moved to the US 16 years ago. Anyway, so they had a really good model. They saw the opportunity to disrupt the industry, which has been around for 100 years. I'm an actuary by training, so I did all the mathematics of insurance companies, and that was my path until I decided it was too boring. I'd get into management consulting, which was more interesting. So they built up 1,000 franchisees. They're worth multiple billions. The owners themselves are billionaires, as you can see from this article here. Now they've reached the billionaire status. Robin and Mark, as you can see, founded in 2013. So it's an interesting story. We hope to obviously build a huge business like these guys, but we've got a slightly different model. And I think, we can kind of compete, as you'll see. So Goosehead requires $41,000 to $116,000 to get in. All right, so they're established. You can see here 41 to 116,000 to get in working capital, maybe another 10, 20 royalty. They've got different royalty models. So obviously with Clarity, will probably be about 30,000. It hasn't been finalized, the pricing, but the pricing that Brian has offered to his contacts who are already experienced and don't need as much training, etc., is $20K. So that's kind of what we've offered to Ashleigh. Up until understanding that this is really the first time Brian, and he will reiterate, has brought on someone with no experience. So he's a little bit concerned. He wants you to fully understand that we don't have the full documentation yet until later, either end of the year, early next year, January sort of thing. So if you want to take on the risk of joining us before we've got all the T's and everything crossed out and everything documented. In fact, this will be part of the reason why I think it's advantageous to join in if you really believe in the team, implementation of what we're doing. They pay out 80% of new business and just 50% of renewals. All right, now renewals, I'll show you in my model, represents about 80% of revenues. I will give you this Excel spreadsheet that I put together. As you can see, if you brought in $500,000 in sales, you'd make 12% of that. 15% is the average commission, and the royalties are 20%. So you'd make 80%, Clarity makes 20%, you make 12 out of the 15% commission. Make sense? So you would generate roughly 12% of the 500,000 in the first year. But the beauty of the model is that you keep on getting the 12% every year that someone renews the policy in your brokerage house. The industry droppage is about 10%. I'm assuming a 15% droppage every year. So you keep on making 12% of not just 500, but let's say it drops to 400 and 360 and 307. If you keep on extrapolating, the cash flow is more like 291,000 on top of the 60,000 you made. And if you did some net present value calculations, assuming a 10% internal rate of return, which is pretty high, if you can get 10% consistently, you're doing pretty well in the stock market or whatever, that's still worth an additional 150. So the 60 out of the 220 is about 75%. Is about 25%. So 75% to 80% of the value of your book is on your renewals, assuming you run the business properly, assuming you follow up every year with your clients, make sure they're okay. And, you know, if their premiums have gone up ridiculously for some reason, you will switch them. And the advantage of us is that we're a brokerage house. And this is what Goosehead is. They are a franchise brokerage house in the general insurance industry. You'll see industry-wide, the market, when I filled out a Progressive insurance form just the other day, just to check out if they could be better than the quote I got from Clarity, they listed 110 carriers, right? So the industry is massive. It's been around for hundreds of years. Literally, actuaries, we transformed the whole business environment. It all started hundreds of years ago when people would literally risk their lives to explore new countries. So they needed to create a form of insurance for the family. So in the event, huge event that, you know, very likely event they wouldn't even make it back, the communities would chip in and pay for those who didn't make it back, right? So the whole modern economy is based on insurance. Without it, you know, we couldn't operate. So you have many operators, like the top 10, they're all like 100 years plus. So it's all mathematics. We calculate risk. It's the probability of you dying and having an accident, all that. That's the fun stuff I used to learn back in college. Pretty dry. You can see why I didn't bother. But it's an interesting model because, as you can see here, no one really dominates, right? They're between 5 and 10%. State Farm are not publicly listed, so they've been able to be very competitive, and they dominate, right? 18% of the market share. They're not publicly listed, and they can be less profit driven, so they can be more price competitive, and they have a physical presence, which traditionally people like. Berkshire Hathaway, Geico, disrupted the model. Guess who owns Berkshire Hathaway? Warren Buffett, one of the richest investors in the world. He disrupted the industry by saying, go online, you know, just call us, we'll save you money. We don't have physical presence like Allstate. You need an office. You got to spend 20, 30, 40 grand a month on rent, right? So Geico took a lot of market share, etc. But insurance is cyclical. So every X number of years, 3 to 5 years, you might have a player who's going to be a lot more price competitive. Why? They had a good run. All right. Their loss ratio in terms of how many people had accidents was better than someone else who had a lot of losses, a lot of claims, and thus they need to keep the premiums relatively high on the new premiums, right? On new business. So the added value, most people are not going to go in and shop around 10 different carriers, and they don't even know, you know, they don't want to spend the time, and they think it's all a commodity anyway. So they just go online. So there's been a movement towards going online and buying whatever seems cheapest, right? And let software handle the shopping around for you, right? So there's a lot of these companies out there, and a lot of them have gone bust because people still feel confused. Like, how much coverage do I really need? Like, how much do I need? 250 or 500? What happens if I am the one at fault versus someone else being at fault when they have a car accident? How much you need to, so there's a lot of questions. So it's traditionally people like going to an agent at an office, sitting down and talking to them.
Is there any data on that in regards to, just again thinking like a new era in regards to the traffic, like in terms of going online?
Well, look at it from the best way to look at it is industry data at the high level. Who owns market share, right? And this is a great example of, there are certain people, young people, who don't give a hoot about much coverage, so they'll just buy stuff online, right?
Mhm.
Then our target market are people with houses and cars, okay? Because Brian was at Allstate and he sold a very expensive product compared to everyone. And yet they still have 10% of the market share because they're dealing with richer folks, a bit more middle upper class, and they've got more expensive cars and houses, and thus, even though they might not sell as many policies as Geico, overall, they're not too far off them. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So the market is...
Yeah, so for the online presence, because I know that there's a lot of those popular sites where people go in and it automatically shops around.
Yeah, it automatically shops around, but often
Clarity be put into it. Like now that Clarity's launching, like would Clarity like?
No, we have that type of software, right? Number one, so we have a software that will shop around. We've got like 20 carriers at the moment. We don't need 110, right? In fact, the top 4 or 5 are the go-to carriers, and you'll see here. Clarity represents Progressive, Liberty Mutual, and Nationwide. So 3 out of the top 8.
Oh, possibly. So Clarity doesn't even provide the actual insurance. It's kind of
yeah. So one thing we could tell that we didn't explain perhaps that well either to Ashleigh, or you might have misunderstood. But Clarity, we're a brokerage house. We sell brand name products. Make sense? We're not an insurance carrier. That's
okay. That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah. Just so you know, we are a brokerage house, just like these online portals where they're also, you know, brokerages, but they're just purely online. The model that we want is a combination of being virtual, so you do not have to have a physical store.
Yeah.
But you have a business owner online. If what we want to attract is obviously good salespeople who are confident and have a charisma to be on camera to do Zoom calls. Because, buddy, who wants to physically drive anywhere these days to see people, right? People are used to going and doing Zoom calls, especially after COVID, right?
Yeah. So we're not competing. We're not having to capture market share. We're not competing with Berkshire.
We are competing with Geico, and we are competing with Allstate. Let me explain.
Okay, I thought we were providing a product.
Yeah, no, we want to take market share from Geico and Allstate and State Farm. Makes sense? By providing superior choice and service and price. Because, for example, Nationwide, they're a smaller player, right? 4%, but that's still a huge company, right? 4% of the market is huge. It's 165 billion a year opportunity. There's 200 million drivers. If you do the math, it's about people spending $800 a year on average, right? But not everyone's active. Not everyone has a car, right? There's 200 million licenses, maybe 100 million cars or something, right? So our value proposition is we can provide, we can't always beat State Farm, for example. We can't always beat, on pricing, but Brian's team has been closing at 40-50%, right? So they're able to, and the choice isn't always based on price, right? It's a whole range of factors that people will make, is it coverage, service, people that can build a relationship with someone a long time or whatever. But quite often you can beat someone in pricing, because I give myself as an example. When I moved up here and bought a car, I was in Manhattan for 15 years. Manhattan, Flushing, 15 years, and didn't need a car, Ubering around. But moving upstate, I bought a car and a house. And my auto was $760 for 6 months, or $1,500 with Geico. I assume Geico is the cheapest. I didn't have the time. I was busy with renovating and other stuff. So I just went online. Geico didn't seem expensive. So I went with them. Just a few weeks ago, I got a quote through Clarity, and guess what? Nationwide, $1,088. All right. So Kenny, quoted me. He is a one of the top guys. And earlier this month, Nationwide came up with this bundle. Boom, 1088. I said, hello. All right. All I did to get the quote was screenshot my Geico pages and my home insurance. Boom. It took me a few minutes, just copied and paste. He came back very quickly and gave me these two quotes.
And that's the same coverage?
Yes, exact same. I gave them
No way.
I saved not only $420 from I'll convert you into a customer shortly. Not only did I save them, I'll be saving $32 from Geico from my car. My home insurance, I'll save another $200. So my home is from $1,370. Also through Nationwide, it'll be down to $1,160. So I'm saving around 22%. And as soon as I get the franchise myself, I'll save an additional, I think $300 a year, 15%. So I'll be saving $900 a year. Not bad, right? Just off my policy, right? With the agency software that comes with the franchise, which is $200 a month, with a few clicks, you can switch over a client without penalty. The beautiful thing about car insurance is there's no penalty. The industry is such that you can get a refund, because if you pay 6 months in advance or a year in advance, on whatever day you buy a stop coverage, you'll get refunded the full amount pro rata, and there's no penalty to switch. So it's cool, right? So these big companies that have been around for so long, like State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, which are captive, what we call captive, they only sell their own product. Why would people just stick with them if they can get better deals and if they get educated and they can get the similar coverage? So that's answers some of your future questions. So back to clarity. So the business model is very interesting. So with Goosehead, they pay 80% of new business. So new business, let's say the carrier on average pays 15%, right, of the commission of whatever the premium you sell. Goosehead keeps 20, you get 80, but they only pay out 50% of the renewals, which is where 80% of your revenues come from, right? Whereas Clarity gives 80% of renewals. So you're getting 60% more on, 60% more revenues on 80% of your business, which means you're getting 50% more revenue than you would from Goosehead. Why give up 50% of your revenues? Make sense? It's crazy, right? So all the money, well, not quite 50, but it's around there, right? My math wasn't quite right there, but rough. You get my drift, right? You're getting literally almost 60% more on the renewals, which is 80% of the business. Well, I think I'm pretty close. So the value proposition is that for Goosehead is, we'll handle the customer service. You don't want to be bogged down by admin. But in reality, the carrier does the servicing of claims questions for free. You just call the toll-free number, right? And sure, if you've got extra questions, by all means, you can call your agent. But most carriers will handle all the customer service and claims issues. Now, they have Goosehead has a proprietary software as part of their franchise where you can find out all the mortgage brokers in the area, and then you go out and build relationships with them. Big whoops. I can Google, mortgage brokers in my area. And what's our value proposition is, we'll help you build your personal brand, right? As Ashleigh might have mentioned to you, my company, we've been, working with, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki, T. Harv Eker. The last 3 years, we've built a business out of building brands and marketing campaigns for the biggest names in the industry and other experts, right? From regular 6-figure experts to 9-figure experts. Right? So we do branding, everything, videos, etc. So we feel the market opportunity is to take a business model, which, holy cow, is whoever wants to become a car insurance salesperson when they grow up. No one's even heard about how lucrative this industry is. Yeah, you've heard of people and friends who get into life insurance, and that's a tough slog. Not everyone, it's a very sensitive topic, and it's not mandatory. Not everyone even has it. Whereas everyone who buys a car or a home needs car and home insurance. And it's, you know, it's not as difficult to say, hey, how would you like to save a few $100 off your car insurance every year? As opposed to, you know, do you have enough life insurance? So our value proposition will be to build out the franchise's personal brand, so that when you send a quote to your client, an email, not only are you representing brand name products, which obviously have that certainty for the client that the insurance carrier is going to be around for, has already been around for 100 years, they're not going to go bankrupt, etc. But importantly, you want to position you as an expert in the industry, right? So if you don't have a love of, at least some saving people, servicing people, and have decent mathematics to be able to sell, hey, I'm going to save you this amount and make sure you got enough coverage, etc. If you don't want to position yourself as a trusted advisor, then it's not for you, right? It's not a business for you. You've got to have, that interest to at least be a decent insurance advisor. So, and on top of that, we see an opportunity within opportunity, because we see everyone wants to get into a new business, and some people may not want to work this full time. They may want to work it part time and build up an insurance residual income, which on average is 15 years. Allstate's average policyholder has been there for 15 years. We believe for independents, it should be even longer, because you can shop around for them. Okay. So, and also with Goosehead, you need to have a physical presence. With Brightway, you need to have a physical presence. With Clarity, you don't. So we believe we're going to have the best of both worlds. You're going to build up personal branding. We're going to teach you internet marketing, lead gen, all the good stuff that all the gurus are teaching. That's my world. And Brian is the expert guru at insurance, but I've also got insurance background, obviously, with my actuarial training. So I have a very deep understanding of how the insurance industry works. So we feel that the better model is where the franchise owner also deals with support. And why give up 30% of the renewals, where that's a huge amount of your business? So the more support you provide as you're growing your business, the more likely they're going to stay with you, and the more likely they're going to buy mortgages through you, other products as well. So you can check out.
Not the support. What does support look like for a franchisee?
In terms of the headquarters support, correct?
Yeah, just like fulfillment side. Like, what does that look like?
Fulfillment of the product. So when you go in, look, I haven't sold insurance in the US. I grew up in Australia, moved here 15 years ago. So I'm going to be licensed and trained up, just like Ashleigh and others coming in who are brand new to, selling insurance in the US, for example. I'm not going to be selling insurance on the day. I want to learn how to do it. So when I'm hiring someone, I can keep tabs over, obviously their production and knowledge and stuff. And I'm just going to brush up on my understanding of the insurance industry. It's not rocket science. It's just, you just got to learn the products and understand how it works. But the training wise, in terms of fulfillment, it's all software driven. There's no longer any. In the olden days, you have to fax in your details, but now it's just you can email the clients, just like I emailed screenshot, copy paste what your details of your current insurance provider, and then you type everything in, and then you get a quote. If the client wants to move forward with it, you just send them an electronic thing they fill out, and boom.
Okay. Did that software require a person, or can that be fully automated? Like
my understanding at the moment, they need someone to type it in. Now, in terms of admin, I have outsourced a lot of my team in the Philippines and so on. And I believe, why pay 30% of your 50% of your revenues to someone at Goosehead's headquarters that perhaps they type in the info for you? I mean, big whoops, right? Initially,
yeah, I get that. Because what I'm thinking is, like, I don't mind taking less percentage. Like for me, my wife and I, like what we're looking for and what we're thinking about partnering with Ashleigh is we just want something pretty hands off. We want to just come in as just an investor and be like, this is something else that we own. And so, like, what does management look like? What does like overhead look like for like Ashleigh and I? Like
For the business itself? Okay, so this is the projections that Brian gave, which I'm pulling apart and putting together a more flexible model to look at how this business really works. So I haven't finished it. Happy to give you what I currently have on the proviso. This is not official. This is just the initial, stuff they came up with for people who are already very experienced in the industry. This is why, don't treat this as franchise documentation. All right. So that's why, he just wants you to understand that this is something that he put up for industry colleagues who are doing, $1 million a year in premiums, right? So if you do $1 million, he's assuming you sell on average $2,000 product, car insurance, 1,000, home insurance, 1,000, right? That's the $2,000 or 2 cars or whatever. Assuming you do 500 sales, initial franchise fee is 20 for the, it's not really even a franchise, a licensee, you could say, which will move across the franchise documentation once it's done. No additional cost. That I don't think he's going to charge anything more. You can clarify that when he gets on. So $1 million premium, the cost of goods sold, 15% royalties at 20%, so it's 30 out of the 50. $50,000 employee comp, assuming you hire a salesperson. SGA is advertising.
We want to do performance based, so that would be
Sure.
different for
that's something that I can get into in a moment, how I model performance based versus base plus commission. There's different ways you can cut it. All right, so you can just go purely on a 10% commission, for example, and if you only bring in $500,000, the person makes 50K, right? So if you did generate $1 million, then the 10% you'd pay out 98,000 on Brian's model. So even his numbers aren't quite right, and why I put 50 here.
Obviously, it's difficult to kind of obviously project numbers, but like,
I know that's why what I do is give you from 250 to 500 to $1 million. Makes sense? So
okay.
you can play with it, but it's better if I show you the consequences of bringing this in. And what does that look like in terms of your residuals?
Yeah.
And what is
like,
that?
What's the median? What's the median for like Goosehead? Like not the actual median.
Actually, I don't know. I need to look that up. I'm sure they probably have some publicly traded information. So that's a good, my understanding for this industry from my initial research is between 250, 350 is if you're brand new.
And that's $1,000 policies?
No, assuming like it doesn't, on average, it's about 2,000, right? I can imagine when you're selling someone some insurance, they're either buying a house and a car or 2 cars and a house. On average, it's, let's say, 2K. Make sense? So it's anywhere from 2 to 5.
Okay.
All right, 1 to 5. You could probably say, worst case, you sell one policy, it's $1,000. All right. Someone might have 2 cars, it's 2,000. Someone have 2 cars and a house, that's 3,000-4,000. Some might have a car and 1 house, that's 2.5. So we're just putting conservatively 2K. Okay.
Yeah. And then for this balance sheet income statement is because they're under, so SG&A, sales, general and administrative.
I think this is way too little, and I'm going to show you. That's why I'm breaking it apart, and I'm interviewing
and then
Brian.
the rent aspect too, because it's not brick and mortar.
Yeah. So rent you can get back. All right. You don't need that. Bad debts, depreciation. What is there? Not much, right? You're going to buy a new computer every 2 years. Yeah. So that's why this is not really relevant. What I see is more relevant is, in reality, I'll get to your question in a moment about a better, more. Let me kind of continue on. There's a lot to cover. So we've got Goosehead. You can check out all this info. I'll share this document with you.
Just for the sake of time, Keon, I'm so sorry. I do have to take off in just a minute. So just for the sake of time, I want to make sure Justin gets any questions he has like directly right now answered. So yeah,
I can stay on with Justin and record this for you if you want, or if you need to head off now, then I can just.
I got to take off just a bit soon.
Okay, what time do you have left until?
Probably like another 12 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. All right, cool. So Ashleigh, if you need to leave now, do you need to leave now, or you'll stay for another 12 minutes?
I'm so sorry. I'm starving. So
okay, you just
I'm dying. So
yeah, go and get some food, obviously, and we can catch up another time.
Okay.
All right?
Justin,
cheers.
I'll connect with you in the morning.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Bye, Keon.
All right. Cheers. Bye. So look up Goosehead, and then Brightway 60K to buy in, and they only get 55% on renewals. They got about 300 franchises. but they do have a 5K model where you get 60% of new business the first year and 50% on renewals. We're 80 and 80, right?
Yeah.
If you invest 30K, you get 80% of new business, but you still only get 50% of renewals. And if you pay 60,000, you get 100% up to 100% of new business.
Yeah, so I get that in terms of the competitor, because like for me again, like the buy-in doesn't matter so much, is more so the business model. And so like in terms of the traffic client acquisition part, what does that look like for Clarity? Like client
so Clarity, well, obviously referral will teach you how to build relationship with mortgage brokers, real estate agents, all that. It's not difficult. You just go. That's why building a personal brand, I think, is important. And Ashleigh obviously
is that kind of the key for your guys' business model? It's like building out the personal brand and
I believe, just like you would know in this industry of coaching and consulting, you've got to build a personal brand. If you, I'm just I'm just a franchisee. Big whoops, right? What's your background? What expertise do you have? You know, I don't care what you're selling. I don't care why you sell what you sell. With Ashleigh, you know, she was helping autistic children, and she's like, you know, she's real. She's, you know, we could build a whole brand around her mission to help people and blah, blah, blah. Right. And she's an entrepreneur and a top salesperson, etc. Right. So we want to also, the business model, which I haven't mentioned, is the high ticket side of things. So one of the things that, if you look at what Brightway are doing, they've got a 5K and a 30K and a 60K model. Imagine, sure, we're at 30K. Imagine if you're a franchise owner and we're going to utilize Go High Level. I'm not sure you're familiar with that system, but we're going to create a whole recruiting funnel for you where it's high end. It's like everything that Richard Yu has. We're going to have something similar. But in terms of, hey, how would you like to, you know, build a brand, sell high ticket where you're making 5,000-10,000 in commissions, and you're building a residual income that on average lasts industry-wide 15 years, and you're partnering with Fortune 50 companies.
Totally. And so what if like, just for
so one other thing, just quickly, because Ashleigh, we want to partner with her at some point to help so she can recruit franchises for us, because we know she's good at selling high ticket. So imagine, you know, if you're a franchise owner, you can sell a 10K mini franchise where the person only gets, you know, 50% of renewals, not 80%. Make sense? So there's ways to build up, become like a master franchisee.
Yeah, just different options. And so like
but that's being
because like for me, like I don't want to create a personal brand. Like just again, me and Ashleigh are friends. I work in high ticket sales as well.
No. See, let me just get clarity on this. You are looking to potentially invest in the franchise that Ashleigh wants to get set up, right?
Yeah, I'll just fund it.
Yeah, fund it. All right. So yeah, I mean, the brand, you don't have to be the face of it. Ashleigh could, you know, wants to be the face of it, and she talked about it at some stage. Now, whether that will impact her current position, I don't know. I think she's going to probably at some point say that she's got this side business where she's hiring salespeople, and it won't impact her day-to-day sales job. I don't know. That's something for you guys to discuss and for us to discuss at a later point, right?
Yeah.
But my understanding is that because she's doing quite well, 6 figures in commissions a year on track, at least. She's only been doing sales for a month, as you know. You know, she's got enough to be able to fund theoretically the ad spend, which I'll get to in a second. So the customer incentives, well, basically, you know, you're doing annual checkups, you're telling the client, hey, I can switch when it's the time to switch for you, right? In terms of training and support, Allstate, when Brian joined Allstate, the people training him were corporate employees. They'd never sold a policy before, never operated a franchise before. You know what I'm saying? It's typical corporate model. Totally. So the advantage is you're going to, at the early stages, because we're only 2 months up, it's in our incentive to make you a success case study. It's the usual, who wants to be a case study angle. And because you're in Florida, Ashleigh's in Florida, we have to train her completely virtually, and we'll document everything. and we want her to be super successful so that we can scale next year, right? And bring in a lot of people.
Okay, so that makes sense because you bring in that expertise side. So like Brian brings in the insurance side, you bring in,
and I'll help it market the heck out of this. And we're going to create a model where we document all the training, right, online, and we're going to offer, just like Richard and Alaric, heck, they do 1 or 2 calls a day, open, Zoom group calls. So you can chime in on Mondays to learn sales, Tuesday marketing, Wednesday leadership and hiring salespeople. You know what I'm saying? We'll have the usual online training. Plus, you have to be industry certified. You have to go through examination by the industry board of insurance to get your license to be able to sell general insurance. So there's some barriers to entry into this, which is good. Right? You got to do 30 to 90 hours of online training, right? Depending on which license you want to get. I recommend getting the commercial license, because then you can sell commercial insurance to big, massive buildings where the premiums are $500,000 and you're making 15% on that every year, right? So,
and can you do it all throughout the United States? Because, for example, my wife and I were based in Southern California, and we have connections in the real estate world. I mean, my wife's a realtor, and
perfect. Brian's company will be licensed in all the major markets.
Okay.
I don't have the full list, but he'll obviously get it. And basically,
but just like the core, like home, car, that can be done all throughout
pretty much all throughout the major states and the markets. California, absolutely.
Okay.
Obviously, New York and Florida, you name it. Right.
Yeah.
So the good thing about this franchise is you're not restricted to selling insurance in your neck of the woods. You can buy leads online for $5-10 and work them. Right.
So for you, the ad spend and everything like that, what does it look like cost per?
Okay, here's the numbers. All right. So Brian said it's about $5 a lead. Let's say $10.
Okay.
You spend 1,000, you get 100 leads. Brian says he's connecting to 70%. Let's make it 50% of them. And then out of the 50%, let's do the math here. I was working on it just before you came in. I'll just put it here. So you got 100 leads. You connect to 50% of them, right? And you only, so it's, he said 50%. Let's say out of the 50%, you only speak to 30 people, all right? And then out of the 30%, you only close 30%. So you're closing 9 to 10 policies, correct?
Yep.
So you're making 20K a month. So you're bringing in the 250, correct? A year.
Wait, sorry. Take that one step back. So, okay.
So you do, let's say, I'm being really conservative here, but let's say you only, these leads are people who filled out multiple pages, right? For specifically looking to save money on car insurance, home insurance. So let's say you only get through to 50. Brian said he's connecting 60, 70% of them. Let's say 50. Okay. Out of the 50, you only speak to 30 of them. Okay, 60% of those. All right. Yep. And then out of the 30, you only close 30%. He's closing 57%. Right. He used to close 15 to 20% at Allstate because Allstate is expensive. Totally. Because you're a brokerage house, you should be able to close around 30%. Right. Now, 9 policies times $2,000 is about 18 grand a month, which is about 250 a year. So I believe, if you're looking to do on average, then you're going to spend at least $1,000 a year, assuming you are trainable, coachable, and you follow up with leads who don't buy immediately, et cetera, et cetera. Assuming.
Obviously. So right? Train our team who we're delegating.
So I would say spend $3,000 a month if you're super aggressive. So I asked Brian, tell me, what is your internal guy doing? $77,000 a month. So he's doing $1 million a year. I said, how much did he spend? About $3,000. Okay, well, there you go. All right. So I would say, I'll get to finish this off, but I'll send it to you. So roughly, I'm going to say you're going to spend $1,000 to $3,000 a month in advertising. Mm-hmm. Right. So why the heck would you go with blah, blah? Well, as I showed above, you potentially could save someone 22% like me, right? Let's say anything above 10%, someone will consider switching, right?
Yeah.
What's the ad spend?
It's on price, right? So we're not only trying to beat up people on price, but also on service and support.
The service is key. That's why if you've got a personal brand where you've got video presence and people go, hey, I want to find, honestly, successful entrepreneurs who will brand themselves and their team, right? Just like Richard is the face, but guess what? You and Ashleigh are the salespeople. Yep. I'm okay. I trust Brian. I trust you guys by default. So we want to create a model where not only can the franchise person find a partner who will take 50% and you get 30% and we get 20%, right? They might come in at 10K. So, okay, 10K after 2 years, you've saved up enough money, you pay an additional 30, 40,000, you buy your own franchise. Good luck to you, right? But in the meantime, every year they stay with you, they get 50% of the residuals. So it ties them in. If they want to go all out on their own, they got 100K in the bank and they can invest 40K franchise fee and risk 20 grand a year in advertising, et cetera. Good luck to them, right? So I think we could do it so that we haven't finalized the numbers. On the 30K franchise, I could give you 10K and I split the 20K with Brian, right? On the franchise fee. And then out of that 100% of the residuals, you get 80%, right? But if you bring on someone and they pay you 10K, they don't have a franchise, but they're a licensee under your brand, under your franchise. And they get 50%, they get 80% of the first year. Right? We don't care about the first year, right? But they're making 50% or 40% of the residuals. And you make 30% by training them, coaching them, mentoring them. And it's a win-win. So you could have 10 people. Would you rather have 2 salespeople where traditionally Brian doesn't even pay them residuals? He pays them a decent base plus basically most of the first year's earnings, which represent 25% of the entire cash flow. So it's decent, right? But the money is made on the residuals, right? So which is almost pure profit. Probably second and third year, you're in profitability. But as an investor, let me tell you, the first couple of years, don't expect a huge return. If you're going to go in, it's in year 3, 4, 5, 6 as it compounds. And you know,
well, that's fine. Like for me, like I totally understand that aspect. I just want to be able to understand the road to profitability. And then
so I mean, I'm saying to Ashleigh, honestly, you want a strategic investor. I'm just being completely, if it was me, why would I want to give up 30, 40%? I don't know what you want in terms of percentage, right? It needs to be the right amount. When you can go get a business loan and just pay 2, 5, 6, 7%, whereas giving up, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why for her, you need to be a strategic investor to some degree, refer real estate connections, add value, right? Help her with
what I'm bringing to the table. So that's why we're even having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense, right? And then she'd rather, partner with someone she trusts and, et cetera, right? So cash flow projections are always tricky. I can give you the Excel and you can play with it. But I can explain.
Well, obviously the numbers are difficult, but for another aspect, I was wondering, okay, so for the ad spend and the targeted market and all that kind of stuff, is that your area of expertise that you're doing that? Or like,
so where I'm going to be adding value is above and beyond the franchise fee. If Ashleigh wants to build a personal brand, she can hire my company to help her build the website, the videos, the copy.
Okay, so that's a hiring on top of to be able to generate leads to
exactly.
That, right?
So there's a synergistic thing. For me, not only do I get in full transparency, out of the 20%, I'm making half of it, right? So Brian keeps half and everything. And in terms of the franchise fee, I would get half of it as well, right? So, I can't charge 6 figures like I did with Tony Robbins and building a website and doing some videos. So, but I know if Ashleigh does well, I'm going to be making 10, 15, 20K residual, on the back end every year that she runs the business. So I'm thinking I'm making 10 grand on the front end. I can charge a certain amount for the development of the website and spending months to help her build her personal brand. And I said to her offhand, it could be anywhere from 15 to 25,000, it would be a hugely discounted rate. But compared to what you guys charge for $32,000, you get no done for you service. That's a pretty good deal. And you're dealing with us where we are pretty, darn good at personal branding, as you can see from our website and our clientele. Anyway, so, that's the model.
So that's one aspect, right? Of lead generation is through your kind of agency, your services and stuff like that.
Well,
and
we focus on personal branding. Brian will recommend everquote.com, which is a lead service.
What?
Everquote.com. It's included in the Google Doc, but that's a lead generation company that Brian are buying. Their guy internally who's doing $77,000 a month, they're spending around $3,000 a month with them. So they have a model which works if your salesperson is willing to work the leads. Now, why do people not hit those marks? Because they don't like sales. You need someone who's young and hungry, and poor, hungry, and determined.
Yeah.
Right. Because some people my age, I don't want to be working the phones 10 hours a day selling. I don't mind. You can tell I don't mind doing sales, but if I'm making 50K potentially per transaction, that's different. And I'm going to obviously build up the sales team for the recruiting side. Our goal is to bring in 1,000 people over the next 5 or 10 years. All right. So that's the goal.
And like for Ashleigh and I, we can come in and train the people too. And so that's no problem.
No, I see the opportunity with you guys being top salespeople for Richard. My goodness, if you come in and eventually help us sell franchises, you'll crush it. And you get a percentage of
Because
residuals.
Ashleigh and I are the leads for Richard's company. I mean, we make him millions of dollars a year. So
I know.
So for us to be able to help, and like that's what we would want to do, just train other people kind of do the same thing.
Look here, the opportunity for you guys is build your brand, work on a model so that you can prove the model works so you feel like after a year, like you guys are doing well. And then as we're scaling and ironing out all the franchise documentation and the systems over the next, honestly, 6 to 12 months, right? This is the pros and cons. We're a startup, you could say.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the exciting thing. Our goal is $1 billion plus in valuation. So you can be part of that. And if you're helping us bringing in, and you're used to selling 30K packages, and if you can do what I just did, and I recorded all the calls that I did with Ashleigh, and if you see how I sold, and I can do that. Right. Sure. I have some advantages saying, I'm an actuary. I work with Tony Robbins, blah, 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 but heck, at the end of the day, you'll be part of my team. You'll be part of the collective story of we can help you personal brand. We can help you personal branding. We can also train you and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And then do you guys eventually want to like IPO? Because that's what you're kind of saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's an exit strategy. That could be 10, 15 years out. Brian's 34. He's in a rush to retire. And, so this is a good exit strategy for him. I mean, he could retire literally now, but he's like, what am I doing with my life? I want to make an impact. All right. He's a Christian, 3 young boys, 6 months, 2 and 6 or something around that. That's what I think that's right. 6, 2 or 3 and 6.
Yeah.
And he's a serial entrepreneur.
Now we're Christians too. And we're young. We're 24.
You're 24. Holy cow. That's great.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity to be part of a legitimate startup with an industry that ain't going away, right? And
because I've seen it, like I've been tracking, like even before I met Ashleigh, I've been looking to get into insurance. I basically wanted to buy just a done for you like type thing. But when she told me about Clarity, it got me interested. And so I've been seeing like Lemonade IPO, like that was another insurance thing that kind of.
They're all online, and that's fine for a certain segment of the market. But you ask people like me in the 40s, there's no way in the world I'm just going to buy online. I want to speak to someone, make sure I'm getting the right coverage, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
Totally. So capturing that entire market, not limiting to just the younger generation, but really everyone kind of who needs that.
The best clients are probably in the 40s. They got a house, they got a car. They're still going to be around for 20 years for you, right? And they want an expert. So rather than just hiring salespeople, and I see that as a problem in the industry where you just hire a salesperson on commission, find partners, find people who are going to get part of the residual, and it's a win-win. So if we can create a model where you're almost like a master franchisee, that's the model, right? Some people don't have 50, 100 grand. They got maybe 20, 30, 40 grand to invest in the business, right? So that's the model. And we want to create an awesome recruiting funnel for that. And that's what I'm really excited. I'm going to be building out a Go High Level. If you not familiar with Go High Level, go check it out. GoHighLevel.com. It replaces ClickFunnels, ActiveCampaign, landing pages, surveys, Calendly. So imagine an automated system where I duplicate the funnel I'm going to create is going to be just like all the gurus. You've got different ads on the front end, organic stuff. You can do all the similar stuff that Richard teaches, as well as paid ads, YouTube ads, and you drive them to the usual 15 to 60-minute VSL webinar. Right? And then you've got your tank page with your dozens of testimonials and video interviews. And then there's a Calendly to book, and you got salespeople to close. Right. And you got setters to, for people interested. We'll run that whole campaign, but imagine having that entire system that right now would take 10 pieces of software, Zapier's, Teachable, Kajabi, ClickFunnels, all these pieces of software to combine, but Go High Level does it all in one piece of software for like $500 a month. Or 300 a month. So we're going to create a system that's duplicable. In other words, you come in and say, hey, I want to run the same funnel as you. Fine. Here's the entire system under Go High Level. you can be the face of it in the front end. You keep the testimonial pages and everything, and you just put your customization on it, and you can recruit not only a franchisee, but or what we call, let's say, a sub franchisee for the 10K entry point, a little bit less residuals.
Yeah.
So we want to create a system that where our partners, our franchises, will also help us recruit franchises, because the market's big enough. There's a huge market, and we're all, there's everyone out there is a potential customer. So,
yeah, and what's the churn rate in terms of like I get it, like you poach people before they kind of get their next policy. So like
you saw that presentation. So that's one of the strategies, and often it's also people looking to change, to get cheaper rates. So initial strategy that Brian would say, if you are new to this industry, is work the leads. I mean, you just got to hire a salesperson. I'm going to work the leads, for a month or two before I bring, as I'm training a sales partner or whatever.
And just so I get clarity, when you say work the leads, what do you mean by that? Just because people mean different things.
Yeah, sorry, work the leads to buy insurance policies. Make sense? Like, to some degree, I say to people, like Ashleigh shared her experience. She wanted to set up a therapy business and she wasn't licensed or whatever, had problems. I believe if you're in this for the long haul and you want to sell franchises, then prove that you can even operate one franchise yourself, right? Now, I didn't need to do it because I'm leveraging off Brian's story, and theoretically you can do that as well. But if you want to set up your own franchise because it's a great business model in itself, then work the leads, like get licensed. That's why I said to Ashleigh, you really should consider getting licensed, because if you're not licensed and your salesperson is doing something dodgy, you're liable. Right? This is a regulated industry at the end of the day. Totally. So you need to be able to be, Brian did the thing. He sold, insurance and then brought on salespeople, trained them up, and then he was working 4 hours a week, right? Bringing in $1 million plus in residual. So our storyline is he built an 8-figure business. His portfolio was doing over $10 million in revenues and was making about 1.5 or 1.2 million residual every year for many years. And he was working 4 hours a week because he had a team. He had two, 3 salespeople in one office and a few others in other offices and admin staff, and boom, and he was very profitable. And right, what do I do next? Right. So let's just create opportunities for others to do the same. Yeah. So that's the model.
Okay. Yeah. And then just so I can get clarity again. So client acquisition looks like one, buying the leads, right?
Buying leads, getting referrals through real estate brokers, mortgage brokers.
And do you give them a kickback? Like, what's the incentive? Like, what's the incentive for them? Do you give them a kickback or like?
It's illegal to get kickbacks, but there are certain ways. Yeah. But what you would do is cross refer and stuff, right? So you need to be positioned as an authority in your local industry and say, my team. So what I would teach is strategically, you find a few kick-ass realtors, mortgage brokers, tax people. So you build out your dream team and you leverage off everyone's story. And when you go, hey, when you buy leads, and hey, what's different about Clarity is not only do we provide competitive pricing, similar coverage, we're virtual and everything, but if you ever need mortgage advice, real estate advice, tax advice, here are my partners. So a little bit of competitor analysis and building relationship building. And if you have a website and you look professional, and it's going to be easier for you to find a good referral source. So as you are buying leads, guess what? You refer them to your partners and they refer business to you. And that's the way it should be done. Make sense? So it's a combination of getting leads, building personal relationships with people who, when they make a transaction in real estate, they don't have an insurance license. They'll refer it to you. They don't want to do it.
And so what about, because again, like we're very familiar in Southern California with the real estate industry and the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
And everyone already has their go-to.
Yeah. So some do, some don't. Some do and some don't. Right. And often when they just say, just go get your own insurance online. Often people will say that because it's like, they say, oh, there's an Allstate guy that I know. Oh, there's a, State Farm go. But you said, I'm a broker. Not many people know brokers, right? If you go ask, go ask, do you know any insurance, car and home insurance brokerage houses? Go ask your realtor. I'm curious. I don't know. There's not that many.
Yeah, because the mortgage broker world, that's saturated, realtor world, that's saturated. But when it comes to like insurance broker, that's a little less saturated. So
it is. There's a huge opportunity here because it's so unsexy,
Yep.
for a better word.
totally.
It's the best kept secret. Brian keeps on saying people have no clue about the insurance industry. They just think it's a necessary evil, and they think they equate it to car salesperson who wants to be that. And car insurance is probably even less sexy as a car salesperson.
So like you guys, like what did Brian do in order to scale? Like, is he going to be leveraging in a sense like
his key is basically I told him, look, the low hanging fruit, but the difficult thing is there are other people in the industry, because they have a franchise, it's hard for them to sell that out and then start again, right? Because their book is tied. And once they've got the residuals kicking in, even though it's less than what they'll get at Brian, there's a lot of opportunity cost to build it up from scratch, right? But you might be, let's say, an executive in an insurance company or salesperson in an insurance company, you saved up enough money, and that's another opportunity. But I believe the opportunity is all the people who've been in business, all the people looking for a biz op who've got 50 to 100K sitting in the bank and they don't know what to do with it. And they want to build their own business. Right. So I think that is and they can work from home, build residual income. If they've got a decent story or decent, if they love sales, they've done Dan Locke sales things and they've become a sales guru. Everyone knows they're going to start off being good at sales, right? Great. Then what? What are you going to sell from home? How many gurus out there can you sell high ticket for them? Not many, right? Relatively speaking, but you can then take that skill set and the money you've made and let's say you're in your 40s, you had a midlife crisis, you've got equity, $500,000 in equity, you got a few $100,000 in cash. You don't want your job. You don't want to become an affiliate marketer, network marketer. You don't see yourself as a guru. Don't want to drop ship. Don't want to Shopify. Don't want to risk it on crypto, right?
Yeah.
What
for the people that like mini franchisees, or really they're the under people, like for those, what is the TAM opportunity for them? So the total addressable market, like for them, when it comes to pay, like, are they just still going to do paid like leads as well and try to build that?
I think
same model for them.
Yeah, I think the same model. The 5-10K people coming in, the easiest that we need to self-select, right? We need to make sure that you've got at least 20, 30K in the bank for advertising, right? And the first year, you're not going to make a lot of money. You need not only, the way I would say is like, you might only bring in 30, 40K in revenues the first year. And you probably need to spend 20K in ad spend. So do you have enough to cover your living expenses for the first year or two? And if they say yes, then you can build a 6-figure business, right? Because the residuals,
like for them, just so I can understand again, because a big selling point, obviously, for those people, right? Like, is there break even like what, 12 months or something like that?
I'll show you I'll show you the model. So let's say we work on.
You got to go in 5 minutes.
Otherwise, cool. I understand totally. I know it's probably whatever time for you. So if you did 250, the break even would be year 2, because if you're 30K in revenues is peanuts, right? Oh, I'm only making 30K. I'm spending, let's say 15, 20K in ad spend, let's say, right? So you're making 15K, your living expenses are at least 2-3 grand on a month on top of that. So you're losing money in year 1, but year 2, your residuals will cover the losses. Make sense? And then year 2, you're compounding.
80% of revenues residual, like.
Yeah, the 80% of the licensee, the 145,000 here is the sum of all the cash flow from year 2 onwards, assuming only 13 years and not 15 or whatever, right? So the net present value, I'm assuming, is just a 3x year 2. But if I actually did a 10% discount rate, being a nerd, every year, it's more like 97,000 net present value for the residual worth. All right. So in other words, even if you brought in an average, let's say, of 250 a year, it's only 10 policies a month, working, hundreds of leads. Basically, you're making 30,000 plus a net present value of either 80 or 100,000. So you're bringing a 6-figure business. This is how I would position it. You want to buy get into this franchise, you need minimum 10K, right? 30K plus 30K in liquid, for ad spend and stuff. So you're going to invest 60K to make 100,000 if, on average, effectively, but you need to kind of break even after 2 years sort of thing. And then you start building it. Like any business you start takes years, unless you're you ask anyone who starts any business, right? They fail X number of times before they kind of get it right. So we're not promising riches, but if you are a good operator, you could be bringing in $500,000 eventually a year, and that's when it gets a lot more exciting, and you're building up a multi-million-dollar book over time.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Look, I can see a lot of, if you're also, at some point maybe interested in, when you learn more about helping us recruit, that I think that's going to be very lucrative as well.
Yeah,
so one step at a time.
Like obviously, because I like that long-term vision of you guys wanting to be able to grow this to $1 billion valuation.
Yeah, and that's the difference. This is a scalable business model. Coaching has a limit. Obviously, being part of a coaching business can go to 10, 20 million, but different reasons. There's not many coaching companies that go beyond,
totally. Like the total addressable market for that isn't as big as insurance. Yeah. And I understand that. So, yeah, because for me, like this is something that I've wanted to get into for a while in terms of insurance. I just don't want to have to, again, like I'm just coming in as an investor, and also just bringing the basic skills and networks that I have just to be able to help Ashleigh and everything like that too.
But longer term, do you see what you're a top sales guy, obviously for Richard? You're open to other sales positions like recruiting franchises and getting a cut of everything, maybe down.
Absolutely. Obviously, if it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So like now, like just with Richard, I'm doing almost 20K commission like a month.
That's great.
And so
that's a great thing about it. You can fund businesses like this because once you invest in it, to operate it is just most of it's ad spend.
Yeah.
And you guys can fund it, and you can just understand the first year or two ain't going to be super profitable, but then 2, 3, 4 years, you're building up the books. So let me get your email. Send me an email. I'm sure. Well, add me on as a Facebook friend as well. Here's my Facebook profile, my personal page. And I'm based out of New York, upstate. I've just got 2 young boys, my wife and my mother living with me, and it's great up here. It's we get away from the city after so many years. But
when did you come from this? When did you come to the States?
2005. I grew up in Australia, and then I moved here to volunteer for a nonprofit. We were championing human rights inside China, where my grandparents left about 100 years ago. A lot of underground Christians, Muslims, you name it, Falun Gong being persecuted in China. So I created a film.
Christian as well, or just Brian?
I grew up. My mom was both Christian and Buddhist, so it's a combination. I won't get into discussing the whole,
Asian background. Oh, I get it.
Yeah, but I grew up with both the Christian and Buddhist background, so that's the simplest way to look at it. So, but so I prefer working with people of faith, put it this way. Anyway, all right. So that's a little bit about myself. We'll catch up again, I'm sure, as many times as we need.
Can you send me just kind of the stuff like the
I'm going to clean up, give me tonight to clean up the Google Doc and to clean up the spreadsheet. So you probably would need another call to say, how does this all work? And that's fine. Just ping me anytime.
I know how to be able to read like income statements, all that kind of stuff. As long as that's clear. The spreadsheets I may need to get some clarity on, but
as I said, right now, because we haven't finished documenting the whole franchise thing, which will need a lot of disclosures and stuff. It's only what we recommend is don't get into this until you've had a long, build up the relationship with Brian, myself, sit the license. We're not going to take on anyone before they show us that someone's going to take the license and willing to work it, right? Totally. So we're not going to basically sell anything to anyone until because right now the low hanging fruit for Brian is people already in the industry. They get it. They don't need to be sold. They see that the models works. They know they'll just jump in. So, but the good thing is by having someone like myself who's hasn't sold insurance in the US or even in Australia, but you guys who haven't sold insurance, we want, to document the entire process so that we can bring in newbies And that will be a great case study. So we're going to do everything in our power to make your company successful. Make sense? So that is
it would be both ways, right? Because if we become mainly the success story, like Ashleigh, kind of front of the face or whatever, then to be able for us to build out the infrastructure of a sales team, acquisitions team, lead generation.
It's going to be a win-win. Yeah, totally. So, you know, that's the huge advantage over just joining Goosehead now, where you're one of 1,000 franchises, right? They already got enough case studies and stuff. We've got a really good model. And not everyone want to build a personal brand, maybe 1 in 5 or 10. And we're going to obviously help those who really want to build out that brand and recruit others. And just, you know, once you build out this brand, Ashleigh, I said to Ashleigh, you will bring in 5, 10K clients who just want your coaching on sales. And you could partner with Justin, or whoever, you know, to launch your own personal brand and bring in $1 million just doing that.
Yeah.
Because you've got the story. Hey, I'm selling $30,000, $40,000 businesses and I'm building a residual income. You don't have to explain exactly what on that page. You make it kind of like mysterious, and people are going to go, and I'm making, you know, if you $10,000 a pop commissions or whatever, right? Or not in your current business, but theoretically, if you sell a franchise or whatever. So you've got an interesting model there. I don't see anyone at the moment kind of doing both, coaching and combining it with insurance. I think Patrick Bet David is a big guru who sold life insurance, so he built his business around that. But this could be an interesting model to combine it all. Anyway, gonna let you go. Great connecting. I'll send you an email tomorrow with the Google Doc and the spreadsheet, and we can hook up another time. Just add me as a friend, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, cheers, buddy. Take it. I'll send you the recording as well when it's up.